So, as you may or may not know, the second Overwatch 2 beta is currently underway. This time for both PC and console, as opposed to the last beta, which was PC only. And, I've been playing this latest beta, so I just figured why not jot down my thoughts on the current state of Overwatch 2, I'll try not to waste too much of your time, so let's just get into it. So what I'll start off saying is, this is mostly just Overwatch, Obviously there are changes and I'm going to get to those, but as a core experience, this is still Overwatch. Now, because this is a sequel, this game still just being Overwatch for the most part is viewed pretty negatively, but I think I may view it with slightly less negativity than other people, because for one, this is a very untraditional sequel in that it's actually set to replace the original game entirely rather than simply follow it up. And for two, personally, even if this is just Overwatch, and there are changes that I'll get to, but even if this is just Overwatch, it's actually Overwatch again. It's Overwatch in motion. It's Overwatch with meaningful change happening, meaningful additions. You gotta think, this game's been stagnant for 2 years, and say what you will, I think it's a great game. So to see it completely stop in its tracks and remove a lot of the excitement and appeal and reasons to play was unfortunate. So yeah, it may just be Overwatch, but at least we get to play Overwatch again. Actual Overwatch that makes good on the live service aspects of it. And don't get me wrong, I'm also disappointed that the actual big claim to being a sequel that Overwatch 2 had got pushed back, that being the PvE. Because I'm excited for the PvE content, and obviously that's set to be the big major difference between Overwatch 1 and 2. So it is unfortunate that we're not getting it until next year, but I don't think this PvP beta and upcoming launch are as rubbish as some people are trying to make it out to be. So now let's get into some of the changes that Overwatch 2 brings, the biggest one probably being the switch to 5v5 from 6v6. During the first beta, I heard a lot of talk about this change, people in support of it, people against it, usually heavily to one side or the other. In its favor, a lot of people praise its dismantling of the shield heavy meta, which certain hero changes like the Orisa rework also have an effect on. Those in favor also claim to like the way it speeds up the game. On the other hand, the main issue of those against the change to 5v5 seems to be that it's just entirely too much pressure on the one and only tank player on the team, and it doesn't help with the toxicity issue that games like Overwatch have, coupled with the opinion that the game then becomes painfully offense heavy. Now, in my own experience, from what I can tell, in the standard role queue where you pick your roles beforehand, it's really not that much pressure on the tank in my opinion. Overwatch is a team game, obviously, and having two healing heroes who in theory would primarily focus on the tank while periodically diverting attention to the damage heroes with smaller health pools or miscellaneous offensive efforts, that all works out well in my opinion. Sure, as the only tank, you don't have someone else to possibly take the front of the damage at some point, but theoretically, you're getting twice the focused healing. But not only in theory, it seemed to work well in practice when I was playing anyway. Now, everything I said is applying to 5v5 ranked and role queue. Where you might see 5v5 affect things differently is in open queue. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I like open queue. I think it's better to give players an extra layer of strategy by allowing them to come up with their own creative team configurations. Now in 6v6, because of that extra player, there's usually room for someone to make an ill-advised hero selection and it not be completely detrimental to the team. So that's helpful with people wanting to try out new heroes and shit like that. And again, because of that extra player, the freedom of winning team configurations is more plentiful. In 5v5, going outside of the recommended structure is so fucking dangerous. The lack of viable configuration options can quickly spiral into an all-out mess of a match as your team scrambles between heroes that bring some proper coordination to one another. For example, a setup I often ran into on my own team was 2 damage, 2 tanks, and 1 support. More times than not, that support was me. And let me tell you, that structure is fucking pressure on the support. There is not a moment where you're not locked the fuck in, and if there is, then you died. And the rest of your team died while you were dead because they didn't have any healing. I'm not saying things like that couldn't happen on Overwatch 1 or 6v6, but you were certainly less likely to have such a fragile team structure simply because of that additional person. The difference one person makes is fucking crazy. So what I'm sort of getting at here is that the switch to 5v5 seems to be purely aimed at more competitive play, and it works if you ask me. I think it's a great working structure that really accentuates skillful play. On the other hand, it unfortunately dampens creative configurations and open queue play. That's my takeaway from it, but maybe I'm stupid, feel free to ignore me. But I'll move on to other new features. We of course have our first access to the Junker Queen. I did play both her and Sojourn a bit, although not as much as I'd like because it's still Overwatch and no one wants to play a support. So I just end up having to play Moira. But yeah, Junker Queen is a really interesting character. She kinda requires you to be very aware of everything she can do and know the most effective way to chain her abilities together. She definitely takes some getting used to, in my opinion, because there's a definite way the devs want you to play her. They want you down in the shit, in people's faces, and being this constant, annoying, undying, always attacking force. And it can be hard getting the balance of knowing exactly when you should and shouldn't fall back under control. The playstyle is almost this hybridized version of Reinhardt and Roadhog, but still very much her own identity. I wouldn't mind getting really good with her at some point. She seems like an exciting puzzle of a character. Like, I wasn't sure about her ult at first, because when I was seeing it done, both against my team and for my team, it never came off very good. It was never very threatening, and it didn't really seem to ever get me killed. And when my teammates did it, it seemed like a slight opening at best. But when I played for myself, I'm trying her out, blah blah blah, and I'm noticing her ult's taking forever to charge, and I'm like, I've seen it though, it's not that good, why is it taking so long? So I had plenty of time to mull that over while it was charging, and I'm thinking there's something more to this than I've seen. There has to be. And so while I'm playing her, I start to naturally understand what the game is trying to teach me, which are all the ways I've said that they want you to play her. Even just by reading her abilities, they're telling you how to play her. Almost everything she does damage over time, and she gains health back from doing damage over time. She has a shout that gives her temporary shield and movement speed. Her ult does damage over time and applies anti-heal on whoever she hits. I already said they want you down in the shit. Her ult is an excuse to pop off all of her other abilities and never stop fighting until everyone your ult hits is dead. By the time I got her ult for the first time, I understood that on some level and managed to make good use of it. But I do think I understand why other people may not have used her ult to great effect. She's a fairly strict character and is a little more contingent on support healing than some other tanks like Sigma and Roadhog. But yeah, moving on a little bit, as I said, I also played Sojourn for the first time. She's a much more straightforward character, but she's very fun because she's very fast. I don't think you'll get tired of doing her little kinetic slide thing at all. I didn't find her wildly threatening when going up against her, but people may just be getting used to her. Mainly the charge speed of her railgun when she overclocks. I think once more people get the timing of the fully charged railgun shots down during her ult, that might prove to be dangerous indeed. At least that's how I felt playing her anyway. Beyond that, I don't really have a lot to say about the new push game mode. Mostly because literally every time I get it, The match is just a wash. We just walked the other team down with very little resistance, or vice versa. I have yet to have a good back and forth battle during push, so I don't know. Maybe I'll report back with better thoughts once I finally have a decent goddamn match. But I think our last substantial Overwatch 2 beta addition is the new default looks, which vary wildly from basically being the exact same thing to actual meaningful difference and everything in between. Like if you just look at Pharah's new look, she has a slightly different hairstyle basically. But like really, what were you supposed to do with her? Her whole fucking body's in a mech suit, so you know, it's Pharah, she just looks like Pharah. But then you have characters like Soldier 76 and Reinhardt, who have their mask and helmet removed respectively. You know, it's actually a substantial change to how those characters come off aesthetically. Characters like Ana and Cassidy are basically these cleaner, more detailed versions of their Overwatch 1 variations, where you wouldn't really notice that they're different until you see them back to back, and then it kind of makes you like, ew, I can't believe I ever used to pick that old one. The Reaper one, much like Pharah, is almost like a spot the difference. I'm basically just the Office meme where she's like, they're the same picture. It's just too on the nose. But some of my favorites are probably Symmetra and D.va. I loved the D.va one as soon as I saw it in the release date trailer. So no, I don't just like it because they gave her ass now, Twitter. Although it doesn't hurt. But yeah, her and Symmetra's are really good to me, where a few small meaningful changes all come together to make what shapes out to be an entirely different outfit and legit different design. So yeah, all in all, I'd say, you know, I'm glad Overwatch is coming back. It's clearly a shame that we have to wait for the PvE stuff, but finally getting new heroes, the meat and potatoes of Overwatch, is definitely refreshing. It's also refreshing to see that they seemingly know that the huge disparity between damage heroes and anything else, but especially supports, is a problem. I think they said that of the next 4 heroes beyond Junker Queen, 3 will be support and the other will be a tank, which is fantastic if accurate, because there are 10 tanks, only 7 support heroes, and 17 damage heroes. That's fucking nuts. Like, how does that even happen? So, you know, hopefully they do well at addressing that. But yeah, that's all I've got to say about this Overwatch 2 beta. Can't wait until the full PvP is out in October. Feel free to tell me what you think, you know, if Overwatch 2 is awesome or if it's dog shit, you know, all that kind of stuff. But until next time, I am Waifu Belector. I am just a normal guy. I like hentai, and I'm happy Overwatch exists again, man. Goodbye.